All right. So today we're going to be talking about managing library and institutional calendars. Um, in order to do the tasks that I'm going to go through today, you do need the fulfillment administrator role. And I'm going to be working in our freshly refreshed sandbox so that I'm not messing anybody's up. Um, and what you're going to do is you go to configuration, fulfillment, and opening hours. Now, if you have institution level events or exceptions like state holidays, which is what I'm going to focus on today because they're standard, you'll want to make sure that you are configuring at the institution level. But if you are doing standard opening hours, um, or exceptions or events that are for your library only, then you want to make sure that you are configuring at the library level. Um, Either way, I'm going to go to institution level because I'm still figuring out how I want to configure this sandbox, but that's a whole different meeting. Okay, so we're in fulfillment, opening hours under library management, and it will usually open up to the calendar management tab. So what you can see in here in the sandbox is not actually all that unusual if you go and look at your own, and that is a bunch of um, expired past, long past, status closed records. And you'll notice there are three record types. There are exceptions, there are events, and there are standard operating hours. Events um, don't necessarily have any effect on the like open and close status of the library. And some people do use them for like actual events. The most common event is end of term. And that event can be used to set fixed policy dates for things like due date. Um, so um, you can, I've got that in this document. Events and exceptions can be set at the institution level and inherited. So you can set exceptions of holiday closures, and every single library will inherit that closure. You probably don't want to set exceptions for closures that may have to do with like a staff training that's happening at one library but not another. You don't want to set that at the institution level because then the other libraries would have to go in, delete it'd be a whole mess. Standard operating hours, however, must be set at the library level. Um, so I've got the screenshot in here just as the illustrating point. So first off, I recommend cleaning out any past, expired, and closed events. If you've or exceptions. If you've just got like a ton of them in here and you can see there's 2 Memorial Days, and they're, like you don't need them. To erase an event, you can go in and just hit remove and it will remove. However, and I will not remind you enough because I still forget sometimes, make sure that this is one of the ones where you have to hit apply changes and not just save. And so you'll hit apply changes. You can, of course, like, remove a bunch of them and then hit apply changes. But if you don't hit apply changes, they will not actually change anything else in the system that they are attached to. So you can go through, you can delete you can clean up. If you're concerned, say you see an event that says end of fall term 2020, say this had a year on it, and it's still showing that it's open, and it has a specific date, you can go into terms of use and policies and check to see where that might be used. So you might go in, and God, there's a lot of them in here.
I think you can also do a search by the
Search
name or the description,
description.
and that will help a little bit.
Mm,
Maybe try name.
I mean, unfortunately, I didn't actually check this. So it could be that there is none using that event. It's if okay, so here it is, student end of term. And we've got due date is end of term, due date set end of current term. So that is not the same as this end of fall term event. It's pulled in from something else.
I think it is actually.
You think so?
Maybe. Um,
Hold on. Okay. So then if we want to check due dates. Okay, so I went into this. Okay, so end of term. Okay, this is what I wanted to check, not that other one. So if you're concerned, you want to go into advanced policy configuration and then policy type, due date, and then you can see the policy name, end of term, and the value is set to end of fall term.
yeah,
And
it's like it's complicated in that in the terms of use section, the end of term policy is pointing to this advanced table. And
the
then with
layers.
the advanced table, that end of term due date policy is pointing to the calendar and specifically to the institutional calendar.
Yes. So, uh, if you're in the calendar and you see these end of terms and you have several, you might want to check on what policies in advanced policy configuration are still attached to them.
And
If, yeah,
and there are two approaches that people can use. So one approach is to simply have an event in your calendar that's called end of term. And every single quarter, you go into the calendar and you change the date for that event. So that's one approach.
but you just have the one event.
Yeah, you
It's
just have the
always
one
just
event.
end of term.
The terms of use points to that one event in the calendar. You have to remember every quarter to go in and change the date for the new end of term in the calendar. So another option is to have a calendar event for the end of every single term within the year. So end of summer, end of fall, end of winter, end of spring. And you put the dates in at the beginning of the year. But
And
then
you have to go in and
every
change
quarter you have to
this.
go into that advanced policy table and you have to change the end of term to be end of fall term, end of winter term, end of spring term, end of summer term. It's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Either way, you're going to change something every
Yes.
single term.
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
And my like personal preference, because I like a shorter list to look at and not lose something, is to have a single end of term event. But there could be legitimate reasons to have multiple, especially if you have um, like sessions within your terms. If you have, yeah, well, I mean, like none of you are Eastern Washington University, but you know that they run quarters and semesters.
What?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. Yep.
How would
Because
that
they
even work? I don't know.
don't
You
get
switch
that.
over at midterms because University of Idaho does semesters and quarters as well.
So they have whole programs that are on semesters because they're like nationally accredited and require certain types of assessments. And then their general undergrad programs, the faculty voted to not change from quarters to semesters because it would be too much work. So instead, all of the staff in the registrar and everywhere else has to do all the extra work. Anyway, not the point. Anyway, so yes, that is an important distinction on the two different ways that you can do end of term within policy management, and then how it will affect your library opening hours. So clean up, and you can, clean up very conservatively if you're concerned, or not if you're just like, I'm starting over. The other thing that you can do is you can do the deletes, but if you're like, I don't want to delete anything, you can import new events in bulk. And that's what I am really kind of excited to show you, how the import tool can help you do a lot of updating quickly and easily. So the first thing that you'll want to do is export the list, and that's because it will give you a spreadsheet that has the correct column headers, and it will show you what your current events are. And you'll open it up, and I already exported this one and started doing edits. So you can see that I've kept the exceptions for closures, and I'm going from today. I've got like all the first part of the year ones. I put in the 2024 dates. You want to keep the from hour and to hour at 0000 and 2359. If you do 2400 instead of 2359, some things can get a little bit wonky as far as like, is it 1 day? Is it 2 day? And Elma gets confused.
Can you leave the from hour and 2 hour blank for things where you're closed the whole day?
So my reading of the instructions was that it is more foolproof to put in the full like day and the hours if you want to make sure that it properly closes the building and you have hours you would normally be.
Okay.
But on the flip side, if you leave it empty, you can still put in the status of closed, and theoretically it should do the whole day. You might also want to leave it empty if you are doing a multi-day break. So like the winter holiday starts on December 8th because the end of term is the 7th. We might, instead of putting in any hours, just go ahead and do no hours. So this is except for the fall quarter begins. But these exceptions, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, MLK, President's Memorial, Juneteenth, Independence, Labor Day, Veterans, Thanksgiving, and Native American Heritage Day are the Washington State recognized holidays that all campuses are closed for. But you might have professional development in October that you need to add in. You might also decide that you just don't even need a description that's specific, and you can call all of these holiday or closure. It's really up to you. So our sandbox only had this one standard opening hours, which I added so I could export it so I'd know the right format. And I want to add standard opening hours for the entire week. What you have to do, oh yeah, Kirsty, just jump in.
Oh, okay. So I have another question. In Alma, there are a whole bunch of places where if you import from an Excel spreadsheet, it overwrites everything. It doesn't add to it, like overwrites the whole table. Is this one of those places where you should export the calendar,
To
make
keep
your
everything?
changes?
That
and
is what
then-
we are about to learn. And that is
Thank
why
you.
we have a sandbox. Because yeah, I was like, I don't know. I can't tell. Like, I watched a few tutorials on this that like other libraries in consortium did, and nobody expressly was like, oh, this overwrites everything or it adds new events. And the screenshots that they used weren't helpful in that either. So I figured if we ran through this process, we would find out and we can add it to the call notes.
Excellent.
So yeah, so I was like, okay, I want to add all of these opening hours for Monday through Sunday. They do recur and they recur for 3 years. So I have this very basic one, and I'm going to save it. It's in my downloads. And now we're going to try and import and see what happens. So we can add it to our notes. Okay. It says, upload file will replace, not append. So I do believe it should clear out all of these. And then will be applied after performing upload and import and then apply changes. So if you want to save existing exceptions or events, you definitely want to export that Excel and then add your new exceptions and events onto it and import the full thing with all of the extra rows. Otherwise, they will be wiped out. So I'm cleaning up the sandbox. What? All right. So invalid record type at, so it's 23 through 30. So let's see what it is I did. Down notes. And that's why it's so fun to do these live, because if I had it all perfect and then you got these errors, you'd be like, what the heck?
And there
Okay.
would be no learning process.
Yeah. All right. So 23 through 30. There's nothing in those. What the? Hold on. Hold on. All right. So 23 through 30 is not empty in this. I'm going to try this one more time. odd. Okay.
It wants to replace something that
Isn't
it
even
doesn't have
there.
any
Like,
data for. Yeah.
well, and even the calendar doesn't have more than 27 events. So, um,
Were,
hmm.
were there any of those lines when
In
you
this file,
exported? Yeah.
no.
No.
I'm clear contents, like just in case. Um, gonna save again. I'm going, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna save and exit out in case it's like confusing itself. Oh, thanks, Sarah. Okay. Invalid record type, date, blah, blah, blah. This occurs if a line is blank, but the row itself has not been deleted. Oh, yes, but I mean, rows exist. Like,
How many rows were, so there were 23 rows originally, and then you added?
there were 27 when I
Okay.
exported, and I am only trying to import 22. And I selected
Oh,
all these rows and I did hit delete, and it's just deleting empty rows, but
I, knowing what I know about Alma and Ex Libris, it kind of makes sense that it would give that error message about something that it doesn't need to give an error message for.
well, it
Because
could
the
also just be confused because I was clicking on things and and I hadn't hit apply and save because I deleted those 3 things, remember? And I hit apply changes, but I didn't hit save.
oh,
So it may just be kind of confused. So we have 27. Everything is saved. Like, it's not confusing itself. Let's hit import and see if that's what was goofy. Yes. Okay. Um, so, um, what is interesting is that you can see that while the import like worked, uh, we've got Sunday noon to 8, Monday 8 to 8, Tuesday da 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 da. The description imported oddly. So what I'm going to do is um I'm going to hit apply changes. I'm going to hit save. And now we can go back in and I think safely edit the weird descriptions and not break Alma's machine brain. And to edit, you just hit edit. But it's why? Why is the description not part of that? Really? Hmm. Anybody thoughts? Because that's not useful. I wonder if I just re-enter if it'll fix itself. It did. All right. But note, changes has not been applied. Apply changes. And then we'll edit this guy because it's weird. And hit apply changes. Now you can go to full calendar, and you can see like it does look the way a human would expect it to look. Like, okay, that's when we're doing it. And we have fall quarter begins, and we can skim through to October, and it won't actually change until you click on a day in the next month. Now we have closures in October or in November. So you can see, because it's just an exception, it just has it no opening hours. If we go to the month view, you can, it's not as visual, but you can at least double check and see the closures. So if like we go to, we've got end of term on here, and then, haha, so interesting. The winter break closure that I put in did not, I put it in as, where is the winter holiday, as an exception. And because I did it this way and I chose a day of the week, I think it only applied to one day of the week. So I'm going to try something else. I'm going to add a record type of an event. And the description is winter break closure. And the date is going to be then. Okay. And the hour. Now let's see if I can edit. Okay, it doesn't, okay, recurrence is, nope. All right, who has effectively done a break closure over several days in one thing? Because the directions I found were like, yeah, just put in your break as several days.
I actually have Carly, and I was actually just editing our calendar this morning. So
Here,
do you want me to kind of walk you through it?
yeah, let me jump into yours and then you can
Oh, sweet.
narrate.
Yeah, that worked. Nothing too exciting, guys.
I finally like put everybody's Alma logins as favorites right underneath your catalog pages. So
Oh,
now I don't have to get into my stupid document all the time. It's so fast. I'm like, why didn't I do this before? Okay. Config, fulfillment, opening hours. Okay, so that's institution level. I wonder if it
yes.
didn't work because is that
Yeah,
it's a
library level.
level?
Yeah. So if you scroll to line 22 or 23, so I have everything set for our winter or fall to winter quarter break. And so you just say from this date to this date, you add that you're going to be closed all day. You don't put any sort of day of the week. And then that does stick because that's how I've been doing it the last 2 years, and it does work.
Okay, so if we move out of the institution level and into the library level, you can see that it's inherited these exceptions, but it has its own opening hours that were just, included in Ex Libris stuff. We've got the end of term, winter closure break, also inherit. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to delete that one. Winter break closure. Remove. Remove. Okay. Apply and save. All right, so now we go. Nope. So they've got their opening hours. And we want to, so you go to add record
Yes.
and exception
Mhm.
and status closed, and day of the week is not required now. And then
Yeah.
we can say winter break closure.
I will say always leave day of the week blank. And the way I think of it is we're doing a date range, and not all of those dates are like a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So that's what confuses the system, is it doesn't understand what day you actually want it to be closed.
And do you do hours?
I do. Yeah, I
Okay.
always fill it in. So there's no confusion.
So we add and close. What?
Oh, because you're going from December to October. You're going backwards. Can't go back in time.
Okay, let's try. Okay, hold on. Okay, add and closed. Okay, apply changes. So we now have winter break closure. Let's look at the full calendar. And okay, so we've got end of term. And then if we really, did it not? Oh, it's because there's no opening hours on here. Although, so interesting trick that I did read somewhere was if you have these standard opening hours and they're the valid to valid from dates are long past, and you click on the edit button, you don't actually have to do anything. You just hit save and it updates the years and it puts it out 3 years. So now we should have Friday and Saturday hours apply changes. And if we go to the full calendar, yeah, okay. So now we've got some hours to check against it. And if we check that winter break, now we see there are no hours on the 22nd or 23rd because of the event. What I am curious about is what this looks like when it's exported. So I'm going to export this, and it probably looks how I expected, and it's just because we imported it at the institution level and not at the library level that it didn't work the last time. So here it is, and the winter break closure does not have the day of the week, but it does say status closed rather than status open. Is that because it's not currently those dates?
No, you said it is closed. I think you could do, well, I can't remember what the options are. Let me pretend like I'm adding a record.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, status open or closed.
So, apply changes. Although it still seemed to affect hours, even though it said status Oh, wait. Yeah, no, we want it to say status closed because that's the library is closed. It's not the status of the event, it's the status of the library. My brain just hiccuped. That was, yeah. Okay. So anyway, this was my little let's learn together and also play around with calendar management. Um and uh so if yes. You want
I
to
was just
talk
good.
us through your stuff,
Oh
Linda?
my God. Yeah, there's actually a couple things I was going to say. So let me kind of look. So when I started working with Alma calendars a while back, no one ever told me to look closely at the standard opening hours and that I had to make exceptions. So for example, let's look at my Mondays. So Mondays, we no longer open at 7:30 in the morning, right? So we open at 8. So I was told not to change standard opening hours. So what I actually have to do is now create one record for Mondays. Yep, you're going to see 2 records for every day that says no, we are actually closed from 7:30 to 8. And no, we are no longer open till 7 or 8 p.m. We close at 6. So you have to be very specific and tell it exactly what hours you're closed. I've never actually done an open status. I've always done closed because when you set your standard opening hours, that to me is setting open, right? So now you have to tell it what dates you're going to be closed. And the other thing I was going to mention is a tool that I didn't know about till a while back, but it's called the fulfillment. I think it's like utility tool. It's on the production side. If you're ever curious what Alma hours are applying to terms of use, you can actually do a what if kind of checkout situation. Where is it? There it is. Fulfillment configuration utility. My apologies. And yeah, you can use my student. She has no problem. So she is student staff. And then, yep, you can go ahead and yeah, that's one of my professor's books. So you could see exactly what TOUs and fulfillment unit and all of the policies that would be applied to this particular checkout. So for her, she's staff, but you could see if students, what a student status would give the student. But just wanted to mention this.
I'm curious, why your institution, instead of changing the standard operating hours in the calendar, why you do that, adding basically a duplicate for each thing with specific closed hours.
Right. I actually had that question as soon as I started because I'm like, are we like permanently changing our hours? Because I might as well just go in and change the standard opening hours.
Yeah.
But I was told that we might go back to the hours we had, and it's just easier to keep those hours. But I actually don't know if we're
I
ever
don't think
going
it
back to
is
these.
easier though, because you can just
Yeah.
go in
Yeah.
and change it.
Exactly. So I was told not to at my last job and my current job. And so I'm just going with what I was told. But yeah, Sarah, I totally understand where you're coming from. It almost doesn't make sense. So yeah.
Thanks.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I was just curious.
Well, and I guess like if you had institution level calendar things and then the library level calendar management was saying don't change this because it's inherited,
Mhm.
but you're not working at a super large institution anymore. You've only got the one library.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think I'm just going to go in there and change it to what makes sense to me. I'm also
who's
teaching
gonna
2
notice?
part-time staff members how to do this, and they've had the same questions. And I'm like, yep.
Well, and
So,
it seems like that leaves a lot of room for error.
yes.
Let's just for fun see what it looks like when you have multiple libraries. Since Kirsty's the wizard. And she's not here to dispute my praise. Okay, so we are configuring institution level. So she's got basic exceptions for holidays. And so she's keeping this pretty clean. She's only got a couple of future terms in here. So even though she was saying you can have a single end of term and update it, she is only keeping these most recent terms. So she's not keeping, 2022 in here. Now, if we go into one of the individual libraries, well, wait, North, there we go, just a normal library, not the IT desk or something. We've got these expired ones, like all of this stuff that's dated, super old could be cleared out, is like kind of my take on that, because that's a lot of different exceptions that are no longer applicable. Good gravy. And finally, when you get down here, you can see like the institution level inherited 2023 holiday. They've got their exceptions on opening hours because it looks like they inherited.
So presumably that's North has different hours from those standard hours in the institution calendar. Okay, that
Mhm.
makes sense to when you're managing multiple libraries with different hours.
And you mostly have the same hours, but they're possibly changing infrequently. And then their spring break, they did daily exceptions on hours. There's the inherited. But it looks like their standard opening hours that are in here are not. So they've got it 8 to 8. And then if we look, so they're setting their own standard opening hours, but then still doing exceptions. Yeah, the other thing, and this is entirely, my take on this, and those of you who have worked with Elma a lot longer could correct me, but my impression was also that this calendar management system used to be even worse for user interface than it is now, and I'm wondering if some of that, like, don't mess with standard operating hours, don't, like, is ingrained from that. The other thing that may be the issue is you don't want to create a new standard operating hours event, well, not event, but like record, if you can edit the existing one, because each record in the like backside of Alma programming that we don't see has that tag. And when you create a brand new one and you've been using an existing one, that's probably going to confuse the system. So it may be like an inherited, like, the user interface is bad, so don't mess with this because everything will break. But now you can easily edit a standard opening hour and not change the background code of this record. If that makes sense. I was kind of rambly, but again, I haven't been working in Alma long enough to like know how much of a change there was in calendar management. I just have this like vague recollection that there were some changes. So to me, North Seattle could do a significant amount of cleanup. And if, the way that I would do it is to export all of these and then take out all these COVID-19 closures at the top in the spreadsheet and re-import. And that would clear them, and then you wouldn't be going line by line removing them. So as always, go with caution, but also better to ask forgiveness than permission. You never know like what somebody's going to be like real stuck on keeping records about. One of the things that I discovered was we had stopped doing calendar management in Alma as far as hours. Our circulation manager was only doing like full closure dates and holidays, because for the due dates, she didn't care if, like, oh, we close at 8 and the due date is midnight tonight. If it came in the next day, she backdated it to the close time the day before anyway. And that's how our circ worked. And so then all of our specific hours went into LibGuides, and that API was used to create the display on the website. Well, for a good 3 or 4 years that they were using like LibCal, every single time we changed our hours, which we started using it in 2019, and then we had COVID and things changed, they created a like brand new thing in LibCal event. I can't remember what it's called anymore. But basically we had sets and sets and sets and sets, templates of opening hours because no one wanted to delete the old template that like we were never going back to because it was like the history of when our open hours were. And I'm like, does, I mean, do we need that? Like, it's probably in a report that our library director has written, and if she hasn't by now, 3 years later, is that on us to keep this, significant number of junky event templates in LibCal? So you never know what someone's going to be attached to, but anyway, it is 1:54. I hope that this has been at least slightly useful. I will add a few of the things that we've learned into this open call document, and then I will make the link to this available in the description of the call recording on YouTube. That's kind of how I've decided to, like, instead of uploading this document link into LibGuides and uploading the recording, if I just do the link to the recording and then the recording has the description and it has the link, then I'm only attaching things once, like each thing. So still a lot of work, and I wish there was like a more automated thing, but I'm just not that good of a coder. So, yes, happy Monday. To those who are starting fall quarter today, best wishes and good luck. And to everyone else who is starting here in the next couple of days, let me know if I can help out. Tomorrow we will have a call at 10 a.m. If anyone's looking at the schedule and remembers what the topic is. Let's see, it's on the website.
Alma updates. What does that mean?
Oh,
Like just
so
the-
I'm gonna do the release notes like once a month.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
So normally it's a lot closer to the beginning of the month, because so like they do the release notes always like a month early, and if there are any significant upgrades, they're available in the sandbox, like a month early. So I'll probably go over at least the last couple months because I don't think we've done them in a while, and I'll preview anything in October that looks like it might be impactful. At the beginning of October, we will review anything from October, as well as kind of preview November. So we'll get that once a month, and that way it's in my brain and it's not just getting brushed over for something else. So, but yeah, all right, I'm gonna stop the recording.